Good evening, friends, and welcome to my brief tutorial on the Springfield XD9. Tonight we're going to cover how to safely disassemble and reassemble the XD9 for the purposes of inspection and cleaning. So the first and foremost rule of handling any firearm is keeping the muzzle the bullet comes out of in a safe and very deliberate direction. So, that being established, let's go ahead and check for cartridges. No cartridges in the magazine. Do a press check. This particular model of firearm, you have to depress the rearward safety here in order for the slide to slide back. So, no cartridges in there. So, for ease of takedown, so the slide will stay back once we pull it back. We'll go ahead and put the magazine back in, the empty magazine, pull it back, and it stays in the open position. Now, to take it apart, simply all we have to do is take this little tab here and just turn it up to the 90-degree position, pop the magazine out, and pull it back to release the slide catch. Once the slide returns to its normally stationary position, you simply pull the trigger and it will release forward. Now, if you was going to do that without having the magazine in, because some people may not feel comfortable having the magazine in there while they're taking it apart for safety reasons, I guess. I mean, even though it's empty, you know, accidents do happen. One thing that you can do is simply pull the slide back and with your index finger engage the slide catch, so it won't go forward. Now then, we can repeat this procedure and pull the trigger, and there we are. So here we have the frame assembly. What we're going to be looking for here is just all minor deposits, build up and what have you, of the little gummy, greasy, dusty gun mud that kind of builds up along the slide stops and just everywhere in there. We're going to be checking for any kind of obviously broken parts or broken springs, things which seem to be worn particularly too much. You know, there's pretty much just give it a quick once over and see there's no parts falling out. As far as the slide assembly goes, same principle. Basically comprised of three major components. The recoil spring we have here. It's actually a double spring. This is a two-part little piston ram here. But yeah, as far as this component goes, you're just going to be looking for broken or worn out springs or anything. The springs are nice and tight. They're not really, I mean, they're not going anywhere. You know, everything's nice and good. They're pretty easy to tell, really. As far as the barrel goes, we can go ahead and remove the barrel now. Gonna go ahead and look down the barrel, check the rifling, check that there's not any excessive scoring or scrape marks or any obstructions in the barrel, you know. And of course at this point it's safe now. You know, it's just a little pipe, a little piece of tubing, got a piece of milled steel. So anyway, yeah, barrel's all good. You don't ever really want to insert any hardened steel objects down into the barrel, you know, for the reason that you might scrape the inside of the barrel. A lot of times there will be a chrome lining, or even if there's not a chrome lining, you just don't want any grooves in the barrel that aren't supposed to be there. You know, I mean, they're rifled, and That's why most cleaning brushes are either cloth or brass or copper, just because it's a softer metal and it's not going to scratch up the inside of your barrel. Typically, now that we have our XD9 here all taken apart, we can actually go through and clean it. General procedure for me, aside from the barrel, you want to use a 9mm cleaning rod just to run through a couple times, get any residual gunpowder or anything else that might happen to build up in there out of it, so the barrel's nice and clean, so there's no obstructions. And then you just take a rag, a little bit of Remington rim oil, and dab a few little drops of oil on there, and just kind of go over everything that you can get to easily with one corner of the rag. Then after you're all done, take the other corner of the rag and dry it all down, because you don't want any standing puddles of oil on your firearm, internal or external, because all that's going to do is just collect dust. It's just going to create grease and grit. Stuff will stick to it. It's just going to make a mess in there, and it's ultimately going to likely lead to failure, or a higher probability of failure anyway. So anyhow, yeah, it's good to oil your gun, and the oil is really designed to penetrate the pores of the steel, so that you don't really have to leave any on there, because the oil is then inside the metal, and it'll protect it. It'll protect it from mild rust. It'll keep it lubricated for a certain amount of time. So with regular maintenance, you can actually do quite a bit without leaving any oil on the components. Now, on the other hand, if you're going to be storing a gun for a while, it's okay. It's actually better to leave a heavy amount of gun oil all over every component of the firearm, which is metal, just to protect it from rust in that long-term storage, because condensation builds up. You don't really want to store your guns in those little snap together gun cases and stuff. You want them to be in a dry, breathable environment, so that there's not going to be any chance of condensation collecting on the surface of that metal, because it'll just collect rust, and once that rust starts, it just takes off like a rocket. I mean, just heads everywhere. It's terrible. Leaves little pits all over the metal. And anyway, I'm rambling. So for all the small, hard to reach areas, such as the slide grooves, which are especially important to clean out, you just take a Q-tip, get a little bit of rim oil on one end of the Q-tip and stuff, and just kind of run it up and down the slide grooves there where it interfaces with the frame. And it may look clean at first glance, but you do that a few times and you take the Q-tip away, and it's just covered in this black, greasy gun grease. I mean, it's what they do. There's smoke blasts going off in there, and there's old gun oil and little particles of dust just naturally occurring in the air and everything else. So you're gonna want to scrub that out a little bit and just keep it clean. Keep it maintained, because ultimately will lead to a lot longer longevity of just life in your firearm and dependability. So same with the frame. You're going to want to catch the slide grooves and stuff on the frame, go around through Q-tip, just kind of dress up the hammer mechanism, and just kind of all these different little areas. Just go around in there, and it doesn't really take all that long. I mean, you can really clean this thing spotless in about 15 minutes or so, with very little care, with regular maintenance. So anyhow, so now that we've supposedly cleaned it all, we're going to go ahead and start by reassembling the slide assembly. So we take our barrel, insert it point first, muzzle end first, into the forward into the slide, and it just kind of clicks right in place there. I mean, it's a really secure, solid fit. This little guy, the smaller spring end goes to the aft end or the rear, whereas the larger spring end and this flat surface here goes up to the front, and it just seats right into the end of the front. You know, I mean, it's a piece of cake, you know. And then this spring needs to be mildly compressed to fit at the bottom of this slope here. There's a flat surface that it'll just seat right into if we compress the spring a little bit, just like so. So now this is all done. Then simply after that, all we have to do is take and align the slide grooves on the frame with the ones that are on the slide. Just slides right into position. And go ahead and bring it back all the way, and then this little lever here that we flipped up to disengage the slide, we're just going to want to flip that forward and then just kind of creep the slide back forward again until this little latch clicks into place, right about where that is. So anyhow, that goes forward, and there you have it. Brief review and tutorial on the XD9. I mean, it's pretty accurate firearm as they go. You know, I mean, I'd say it's comparable to others of a similar class, such as the Smith & Wesson M&P 9mm, or you know, the Glock. They're all real similar firearms. Polymer frame with the steel slide, and you know, it's very reliable. It's a very fast firearm too, this one actually, because it has no decocker or external safety latch. All that it has really is the rear safety, which you engage with your palm right there, and then the trigger safety, this little secondary mechanism here. So in order for the trigger to be pulled, you have to be grasping the firearm and pull the trigger. That may not seem safe to some, and it's all really a matter of personal preference, but I actually am a pretty big fan of it, because you don't have to worry in the heat of the moment about drawing out your firearm and having to take off a safety. It's one less thing to do. You just grab onto it firmly, take aim, and fire. So, you know, God forbid that need ever arises, you know, in my case, or anybody's case for that matter. So anyhow, guys, yeah, top-notch firearm, really a pleasure to shoot. Nothing but good things to say about it. So thank you for watching. Please be safe, and we'll catch you next time.